Hey guys, Corey Maselli here with Squat Life Interviews. Today's episode is filmed in front of a live studio audience. We got Matt Orseski, John Cruz, and Mike Fagan. You guys want to make your presence known?
Hello, guys.
Yeah, oh boy, I feel special. Today I'm going to talk about how I deadlifted over 900 pounds in my 40s, which the day I did that became the number 2 ranked deadlift in the 308 class of all time. I think it's down to number 3 right now. And we'll go back in time a little bit. When I was a college football player, I remember thumbing through a Powerlifting USA magazine and saying to myself, when you turn 40, you can start competing in powerlifting. Why I had that notion, I have no idea. Perhaps it was the influence of Ernie Franz, who always said he felt his absolute strongest in his 40s and 50s, so I figured the time was on my side. Don't know if I was exactly right about that, but it ended up working out to a degree. Flash forward in time, I had a gym in Hinckley, Illinois at the time, and a buddy of mine kind of put a bug in my ear. He's like, man, you're really strong. Why don't you get back into competing? So I told him, I said, hey, I will. When I turn 40, I'm going to start competing again. So I just went on the internet and looked at the Michael Sooms, I think I'm saying his name right, the gentleman that kept track of all the powerlifting records across the world, and looked up the records for my weight class, the 308 weight class, and noticed that the world record for deadlift was 939 by Konstantin Konstantinos, and the number 2 position was a 909 deadlift by a Russian fellow, I forget his name, Maximum Potaviz or something like that. And I thought to myself, I know you can take that number 2 position, and I did by 1 pound. I noticed that at the time that was the highest sumo deadlift record of all time. And I believe it was the highest double hand hook grip deadlift record also. So I figured if the Russian guy could do it, I could do a little bit better. So I started training by hook grip and learning how to perform a sumo deadlift properly. So I embarked on that mission of getting back into powerlifting and learning how to execute a sumo deadlift properly. So I sought out Rudy Rosales from Overkill Strength Equipment, who's also a fantastic powerlifting coach. Had him work with me on technique and just drilled it over and over and over. Obviously, you need to have some strength to pull a deadlift of that magnitude. So I just started my base strength training. Got my squats rolling in the right direction. Got my squat back over 1,000 pounds. I figured the grip was incredibly important for putting a big deadlift together. So I started doing a lot of grip training also. So advancing in time, I think my first contest back, I pulled 700. Then cranked up to about the 800 level within a year. And I felt like I had a lot of strength that I was just leaving on the table. Wasn't really quite sure what to do to fix it. So I really started, understanding the mechanics of the sumo deadlift to another level, which was simply how fast can you get your hips underneath the bar when you deadlift. So I drilled that over and over and over and over, and eventually it kind of came into play, and my technique changed, and I jumped from the low 800s up to a 900-pound deadlift in about a year's span of time. You guys got any questions on what the average person out there might have and how to get their deadlift building in the right direction? Being that you guys are avid fitness participants. Matt? No, Matt doesn't care. How about you, John? I know you've embarked on a much more significant strength training experience lately. Well, what is, I know you made a big gain. You've gone from like a 350 deadlift to a 405 deadlift in a fairly short period of time. What have you learned about it so far?
I think it's just having the right people to work with, people that have more experience than myself.
Sure.
Is what's helped me.
Yeah, I think, so too. And being around people that are stronger than you makes a big, big difference also. And I was fortunate enough to train with the Lillybridges quite a bit, and there was Eric Lillybridge side by side with me on the platform. And although I have out deadlifted him a touch on the platform, seen the kid pull like 920, 925 pounds. So, making those weights a reality is a big part of it too. I'd agree with that. How about now, my man on the camera, Mike Fagan, has actually posted a 424-pound deadlift in competition at a ripe old age of what? How old were you at the time, Mike? About 70?
No, I was about 65.
No, you weren't. How old are you now, Mike?
72.
Okay, you were 68 at the time then.
Okay, all right.
So, that's a pretty impressive feat.
Well, first of all, I had never been into a gym until I retired at 56.
Okay.
And then I started going to the gym, and I knew absolutely nothing about weights. I had no idea what was acceptable weight, what was a good weight. So I just started deadlifting, and eventually off the rack, I got a 405.
Okay.
And the guy I was training with at that time was ecstatic about me doing this, and I had no idea if it was good, bad, whatever.
Right.
Because I had no idea what was expected.
Sure.
So after I got the 405, 4 plates, that's pretty good.
You say
I
off the
kept
rack,
working.
Was that a power rack, not off of the floor?
No,
saying?
it was not off the floor.
Okay.
It was off of a rack,
Gotcha.
but I got it up. So then I thought, well, okay, seems like he's impressed with that, so we'll just keep going after it.
Right.
And I always thought from the base up, not from up here down.
Right.
So I wanted to drive my feet through the floor.
That's a great point. I think a lot of people.
So
will
when
say-
I got into position, as long as I had somebody who was watching my position, and I got set properly,
Okay.
my mentality went down to my feet.
Okay.
And I thought, now I'm going to drive my feet through the platform.
It is
And
working.
as I squatted down, I always used to, this
Foot
kind of
grip.
a hand over, whatever they call that,
Under over grip. or
under
foot
over grip.
whatever you want to call it.
because I didn't have a lot of grip strength. So I would just mentally think, okay, as I'm pulling this up, my feet are going through the floor, and I focused on everything below my waist, basically,
Cool.
using my legs. I knew the biggest muscles were down here, and that's what I had to use.
Right.
And that's how I did it. I mean, I was, you said 68?
Yeah, I think 60.
Yeah.
And I'll say that same day, Mike was just a half a fart away from locking out 440. So I think that's a pretty formidable deadlift for a gentleman in 198 weight class you were at the time,
Yeah.
approaching 70 years old,
Yeah.
deadlifting in the mid 400s. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
And I was training Mike at the time, and I learned this from Andy Bolton. And if you guys don't know who Andy Bolton is, in my opinion, the best true deadlifter of all time. The man's pulled over 1,000 pounds in competition on a couple of occasions, and he's deadlifted over 900 pounds in competition. I think around like 40 times. So the man has demonstrated just brutal strength consistently over a period of time. But one thing I learned from Andy Bolton is you've only got so many. Your timing for hitting those max efforts can only be every so often. I see a lot of people making the mistake of deadlifting heavy, which is 90+% of their maximum effort over and over and over, and that's a surefire method to get your deadlift to flat line and stall. It's very hard to make progress in your deadlift when you're beat up. So learning how to cycle that time of recovering and pushing yourself is incredibly important. And one lesson Andy Bolton taught that I took to heart was have confidence in your abilities when you go to that platform. So you train in a manner that is high intensity, mimicking the technique that you use, but you save that true maximum effort for game day. And I liken it to that of a high level or elite level sprinter. If you go out and you find your maximum 100-meter dash time over and over and over, you're going to hit a wall. You're not going to break through and hit that new best time. But if you train the mechanics and have the confidence in how to sprint fast, and your body is fresh when you go to finally test yourself in that event, you're going to see what you're made of. So have confidence and have the ability to get into that state of mind that allows you to push at an extremely high intense level with the right kind of mechanics. You go test yourself too often, you're going to retrace backwards. You train the mechanics, you train the intensity, and you build your strength into that peak level, you're going to eventually learn how to perform and deadlift that new PR more consistently, as long as you have confidence in letting yourself build into that peak level of strength. John, I think you've experienced that in your training too. You hit that 405 deadlift for the first time in your life. When was the last time you had deadlifted heavy prior to that? Do you recall? Maybe 6-7 weeks, something like that?
Been quite a while.
Yeah, so if you're looking, no body follows any scientific principle to the T. But if you're looking for a kind of a safe framework on how often you can test a heavy deadlift, my experience with myself and with clients, 6 to 8 weeks is a safe period of time to test a heavy deadlift. And there's a lot of factors that go into that equation, and not everybody will follow that to the T. But if you're looking for a guideline of how often to test a heavy deadlift, use 6 to 8 weeks. keeping your training intensity at like 70 to 80%, those other times, I think you're going to have much better time hitting new PRs consistently over the period of time. And Louis Simmons has given the commentary on training heavy deadlift. It's going to kick your ass. So get your ass kicked a few less times, and you're going to perform at a higher level. Okay. Well, in summary, I learned the technique. I learned how to manage my intensity. I learned how to build my confidence and get my state of mind to a place that allowed me to execute those lifts with great intensity and a wise interval. Again, I credit just being around Eric Lillybridge, someone that was stronger than me, that I could see moving those weights changed my way of viewing that reality. It's a big part of it also. We'll wrap my little rant up on how to hit a big deadlift with that. Gentlemen, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time sitting here, listening to me rant, and your input that you gave. I'll see you guys out in the weight room in a couple minutes, and I'll see you guys in the next interview. Thanks.